Hello friends, I welcome you all on behalf of Tanaji IAS Academy. Friends, before moving on to our main topic of discussion today, I would like to briefly talk about what we offer you at Tanaji IAS Academy. Okay, so number one is the daily live classes. So what is the benefit of daily live classes? The daily classes gives you a routine, it gives you a regularity, and the live classes, it gives you an opportunity to clear your doubts as the class is going on, so that you don't have to carry your doubts back home. Fine. So during the class, as the class is going on, you can chat with your educator, you can discuss any doubt with him. So it gives you an opportunity to clear your doubts, and it gives you an opportunity to be regular. Second is the structured courses. Friends, our courses are very well structured and they are totally in line with the requirement of the exam, so that your time and energy is invested in the right direction and you get the best result. Then a very important aspect of any competitive exam is the constant evaluation of your performances, and for that we conduct regular tests and quizzes. Okay, so and we give a thorough analysis of your performances, what according to what you perform in those tests and quizzes. So this is a very important aspect of any competitive exam, and we pay a lot of stress on tests and regular quizzes. Then the next benefit that you will get is you take one subscription and you will get an access to all our live and recorded courses, and you can watch those classes from any of your devices, like from your smartphone or your PC or your laptop. So these are the offerings that we are giving to you. Okay, now let us move on to our topic of discussion. So today we'll be discussing about inflation. You must have come across this word. This is a very important topic. Conceptually, this is a very important topic if we want to understand topics such as money and banking, if you want to understand topics such as public finance. Why is RBI increasing the repo rate? Why is government indulging in stimulus packages, or government is cutting the taxes? So a lot of these things which are going around us, and the steps taken by RBI or the government, they can be inflation has a very important role in those things. So if we understand this topic, so it will be very helpful for us to understand very important topics such as money and banking and public finance also. Okay, now let us define what is inflation. Okay, inflation, what is inflation? So inflation is nothing but, it is in very simple terms, we can say it is a persistent increase in the general level of prices of goods and services. Persistent increase, what does it mean? Persistent increase means over a period of time. Okay, so if over a period of time, if we observe that the general level of prices of goods and services are increasing, general level of prices of goods and services means we are not talking about one or two items, prices of one or two items have increased. We are talking about in general the prices of large number of goods and services in the economy is increasing over a period of time. So we say that it is a persistent increase in the general level of prices of goods and services. So this is inflation. In Hindi we call it महंगाई. Okay, so general general level of prices, if they are increasing over a period of time, we call that it is inflation. So we can also say that, in other words, we can also say that the purchasing power of money is falling. Why do we say that? Because if general level of prices of goods and services are increasing, okay, largely the prices of goods and services are increasing, this means that our money is losing its purchasing power. Why do we say that? Suppose if a 10 rupee note could purchase 10 bananas a year back, okay? So the last year, in the previous year, the 10 rupee note could purchase 10 bananas, and currently that 10 rupee note could purchase only 5 bananas because the prices of bananas have increased. So in other way we can say that the purchasing power of our money has fallen, because now earlier it could purchase 10 bananas, now it could purchase only 5 bananas. So we would say that purchasing power of the money is falling. So this is another definition of inflation, okay? So the inflation, it leads to a fall in the purchasing power of money, because as the prices rise, each unit of currency buys less than what it did in the past, okay? So this is inflation. Now let us talk about what is deflation. Deflation is the opposite of inflation, okay? Opposite of inflation. While the inflation is the general, it is a persistent increase in the level of prices, deflation is just the opposite. It is the persistent decrease in the general price levels of goods and services, okay? And it is also known as negative inflation. Simple. Okay, now let us talk about what is disinflation. Friends, we have to be very careful while between these two terms, deflation and disinflation, because a lot of people, they get confused between these two terms and they use them interchangeably, while they are quite different from each other. Disinflation means fall in the rate of inflation, okay? Inflation is still there, but its rate is slowing down. Understood? Suppose, let's take an example. Suppose earlier the rate of inflation was 8%. Now it has reduced to 5%. Okay, so we can't say that inflation is not there. Inflation is still there, okay, but its rate has fallen from 8% to 5% now, or to 2% now. So the rate is falling. So while deflation is the negative inflation, okay, deflation is the negative inflation, whereas deflation is inflation only, but with a lesser rate. The rate has fallen from 8% to 5% or 2%. It is still positive. Prices are still rising, but at a slower rate. Okay, so this is disinflation. Now another important term is stagflation. Stagflation is made up of two words: stagnation and inflation. Stagnation and inflation. So friends, usually what happens is, inflation is accompanied by the growth. While if economy is growing very fast, then it can also lead to some amount of inflation. Usually this happens. But there can be a situation when economy is not growing, okay, there is stagnation in economy. There is stagnation of growth. Along with that, there is inflation, so we call that situation as inflation. So when there is stagnation in growth, when economy is not growing well, it means that economic activity is low. And when economic activity is low, employment generation is also low. So another way of saying, defining the stagflation is, it is a situation where inflation coexists with stagnation in growth and rise in unemployment. Okay, because whenever there is stagnation of growth, economic activity is down, so employment level will also go down, or in another word we can say that unemployment rate increases. So stagflation is a situation in which inflation is there along with stagnation of growth and rise in unemployment. So this is a stagflation. Then another important word is reflation. Reflation is the policy. It is the policy which is adopted to counter the effects of deflation and slowdown in the economy. And it is a policy, and this policy is both fiscal and monetary. Fiscal policy is the policy undertaken by the government, and monetary policy is undertaken by the central bank or the RBI in case of India. So this is reflation is the policy which is adopted both by the government and the monetary monetary policy body, that is the RBI, to counter the effects of deflation and slowdown in the economy. Many of my students, they ask, sir, when there is deflation, why do we need to counter it? If prices are falling, why is that a bad thing? Okay, that's a normal question. It comes to everybody's mind, because we know that rising prices are bad and falling prices would be good for the economy, but this is not the case. Okay, a little please keep this thing in mind. A little amount of inflation is good for the economy. Okay, a little amount of inflation is not bad. All in all, inflation is not bad. High amount of inflation is bad, but a little amount of inflation, or we can say a moderate amount of inflation, around 3, 4, 5%, 2 to 5% of inflation, it is considered good for the economy. And why is that? So because a little amount of inflation, it motivates the industrialists and the investors to invest more in their businesses. So when they will invest more in their businesses, when they will invest more, then economic activity will be high in the economy. When economic activity is high, employment generation will be there. When employment generation is there, more demand would be created, so more economic activity. So a little amount of inflation is good for the economy, whereas deflation is not good for the economy. Okay, it is counter to our commonsensical view that if prices are falling, then masses should be happy, but that is not the case. Because if prices are falling, imagine if prices are falling year after year. Suppose I have this pen and it costed rupees 10 last year, and now this year, in the current year, it is costing me only 8 rupee. Then the investors or the industrialists, they will not be motivated to invest more, because they know that the prices of their commodities would fall over a period of time and they would incur losses. So why would they invest more? When they will invest less, economic activity will be less. Okay, so when economic activity is less, employment generation will be less. When employment generation is less, people will have lesser money in their hands. They would purchase lesser things, and then industrialists will manufacture lesser items, and they would even require lesser people. So they would fire the existing employees. So unemployment rate would even increase. So deflation and slowdown are not good for the economy. So sometimes the government then takes the action to counter the effects of deflation and slowdown. And to counter these, we'll talk in detail about these policies, both of government and the RBI, but because the topic is there, because the definition is there, so we'll talk a little bit about this right here also. So these policies, to counter the deflation, what would government do? They would like to increase the demand. And how would they do that? they would government will indulge in tax cuts, they would give tax rebates, they would government would indulge in higher public spending. Public spending means government spending. Okay, government would spend more in forms of subsidies or other benefits. Interest rate cuts, the RBI would cut the repo rate, and so the commercial banks, so that they could give loans at lesser rates, so more people will take loan, they would invest more, and ultimately it would counter the effects of deflation and slowdown, increasing the money supply, etc. So reflation is the policy. So there are two takeaways from this definition, that deflation and slowdown, they have to be countered, and we call that reflation. And why do we counter deflation? Because deflation is not good for the economy. Investors and industrialists, they are demotivated in such a scenario, and employment generation is not there. So a little amount of inflation is required for the proper functioning of the economy. Okay, keep this point in mind. Now let us talk about the causes of inflation. So broadly we talk about these two causes, demand pull inflation and the cost push inflation. So let us now first talk about the demand pull inflation. Demand pull inflation. Demand pull. For that, let us first talk about what is a demand. What is demand? In economy, we say that a demand has been created when these two conditions are met, 1 and 2. When these two conditions are met, we say that the demand has been created in the economy. So what are these two? Willingness to buy. First condition is the willingness to purchase or willingness to buy, and second condition is ability to pay. Willingness to buy means, let us understand with an example. When in an economy, people at large are willing to purchase more and more. Okay, so there is an inclination to purchase more and more. Secondly, they also have money in their pockets, so that they have willingness, which is accompanied by the ability to pay. Then only we say that the demand has been created. Sometimes there may be a case when willingness to buy is there, but ability to pay is not there. Okay, so we won't say that demand has been created. And other way around also it may happen that people may have ability to pay, but they are not willing to purchase. Okay, so then also demand, we say that demand is subdued or demand is falling when either of these two conditions are not met. Okay, so demand is willingness to buy and ability to pay. I'll give you an example. Like in these times of corona pandemic, and if you are reading newspapers and if you are listening to news, especially the economic news and economic newspapers, economic news, you would be coming across this term that demand has been constantly falling. Okay, demand is falling. Okay, that's why economy is also not recovering that fast, because it has this corona pandemic, it has affected the demand in a very negative way. So demand is very subdued, demand is falling. Why is that so? Because these two conditions are not met. Willingness to buy is not there, and people who have money in their hands, they don't want to purchase a lot of things right now, because there is a lot of uncertainty in the future. They may lose their jobs, or the businesses are not doing well. So when would they come? When the businesses would start in full-fledged way? Nobody is very sure about these things. Okay, so even if people have the ability to pay, they are not willing to buy. Okay, the willingness to purchase is not there. Secondly, there are some people who want to purchase a certain things, but ability to pay is not there. And why is that so? Because a large number of people, they have lost their jobs. They don't have jobs, the businesses are shut down, so ability to pay is not there. So in some cases ability to pay is there, willingness is not there. In other cases willingness to buy is there, but ability to pay is not there, and in some cases both of these conditions are there. They don't want to purchase and they don't have the money as well. So we say that demand is subdued or demand is falling because of these two factors. Now let us come to our definition. Have you understood the topic? Demand means willingness to buy and ability to pay. So when do we say that demand pull inflation is there? When the aggregate demand for goods and services increases. Aggregate means in an economy, total demand in an economy. When the demand in an economy for goods and services increases, demand is increasing without a corresponding increase in the supply or output. Okay, now understand the situation. Demand is increasing. Okay, willingness to buy is there, ability to pay is there. People have money in their hands and they want to purchase things. A large number of people. So aggregate demand for goods and services is rising in the economy. Okay, but without a corresponding increase in the supply of output. Demand has increased, but supply is constant. Okay, supply of goods and output. Suppose people have money in their hands and they want to purchase more food grains, they want to purchase more milk, they want to purchase more eggs, they want to purchase more essential items or any other items, but the output is not there corresponding. So what would happen? Demand supply mismatch is there, so the prices would automatically increase price level, or it would lead to increase in the price levels or the increase in price levels, or this is known as inflation. Okay, please understand it again. In demand pull inflation, people have demand, aggregate demand for goods and services in the economy increases, but the corresponding increase in supply is not there. Supply is stagnated, or it is not improving in proportion to the increase in demand. So supply is constant or increasing at a lesser rate, but demand has increased at a faster rate, so there is a demand supply mismatch. So whenever such a condition is there, the prices would increase obviously, so inflation can be there. So this kind of inflation in which demand increases, supply is constant, we call it demand pull inflation. And there is a very famous saying for that, is that too much money is chasing too few goods. Too much money, people have a lot of money and that money is chasing too few goods. So too much money is chasing too few goods, we call that demand pull inflation. Fine. Now let us take some examples of factors that can lead to demand pull inflation. Okay, the first one is increase in government expenditure. Okay, and especially the revenue expenditure. We'll talk about the government expenditure can be classified under two heads: revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. We'll talk in detail about this in fiscal policy chapter. So for now you understand that the revenue expenditure is a kind of expenditure which is consumptive in nature. Okay, consumptive means this kind of expenditure, it does not lead to the creation of any capital asset like roads, railway, bridges, dams, etc. This is only consumptive, it would get consumed but it would not lead to the creation of any capital asset. So such kind of expenditure is known as, suppose government is giving salaries to its employees, or government is paying interest on the loans it has taken previously, or the government is giving large number of subsidies like government is waiving off the farm loans or any such kind of things. These are revenue expenditures. So when such government indulges in such expenditures on a very large scale, or we say that there is an increase in government expenditure, when government spends, it would obviously, that expenditure would come into the market only. Okay, people, that money, if government increases the outlay on the MG Narega scheme, so what would happen? People associated with those schemes would get more money in their hands. So money would increase, there would be more money in the hands of people. Okay, there is more money in the hands of people, but there is no increase in the supply of output. Output is same, output or the supply, मतलब output तो supply is constant, supply नहीं बढ़ा, supply is constant, but demand has been increased. How did the demand increase? Because people have willingness to buy and ability to pay. How did it come? Because of the because government has put in a lot of money in the hands of people through various schemes and subsidies and programs. So more money in the hands of people, supply remaining constant, again there is a mismatch of demand and supply, and it would lead to inflation. Okay, then deficit financing. This is an important term. Deficit financing means printing of fresh currency notes, printing of fresh currency notes by the RBI. ठीक है, printing of fresh currency notes by the RBI to fund the government expenditure. When government falls short in the amount of money it has for various expenditure which it has to incur, what it has two options, like it can go for borrowing, and another option is it can ask the RBI to print fresh currency notes. Okay, any country can ask its central bank to print fresh currency notes, and then it can spend those money. So what would happen is, if the fresh currency notes are printed by the RBI has no restriction. We'll talk about this later also. RBI has no restriction on the amount of money it can print. The only consideration that RBI has is that the printing of currency notes should not lead to inflation. Okay, so if the government indulges in this act, it would increase the money money supply in the economy, which would lead to increase in the purchasing power of the people without a corresponding increase in the supply. Supply is constant, demand would increase, and this would lead to inflation. Fine. Then increase in forex reserves. Forex reserve means foreign exchange reserves. Okay, whatever foreign currency is coming in India into the country, whatever foreign currency, suppose dollars, pounds, euro, etc. So they are maintained by the RBI. Okay, whatever foreign currency is coming into it, it is maintained by the RBI. For example, and these reserves are known as the forex reserves, foreign exchange reserves. Suppose foreign investment is coming into India. Okay, in terms of FDI or FII, foreign investment is coming. Suppose, for example, Coca-Cola is coming in India and it wants to set up its plant. So what would it bring with itself? It would bring dollars, but it cannot use those dollars in India, so it would deposit those dollars with RBI, and for the business operations in India it will have to use Indian rupee. So because new dollar has come into the economy, the RBI will have to print fresh domestic currency. Okay, and how much? Equivalent to the amount of foreign currency that is added to the forex reserves. So suppose $100 billion if they come into India, so the equivalent of $100 billion of domestic currency would have to be printed by RBI, and then that amount of currency notes would enter into our economy. So when it will enter our economy, there would be high liquidity. High liquidity means people will have money in their hands. So this can also lead to inflation. Okay, then black money. Obviously black money, more money in the hands of people, supply remaining the constant, it would lead to inflation. Increase in wages and salaries. Obviously more amount of money in the hands of people, it can lead to inflation. Then increasing population. This is also an important concern. because increasing population, more number of people would require more number of goods and services, so demand of goods and services would increase. When demand of goods and services increases for the same level of supply, then obviously it would lead to increase in prices, and increase in prices is known as inflation. So increasing population is also an important cause of inflation, especially in countries like India. Now let us talk about cost push inflation. Cost push inflation. Okay. So friends, there may be sometimes there may be situations in which the demand, aggregate demand, is not increasing. Okay, there is no increase in the aggregate demand, but still the prices are rising. Okay, demand is constant, stagnated, demand is constant, but still prices are rising. So there can be two reasons for that. Okay, what can be the two reasons? First is the shortfall in supply. Demand is constant, supply, earlier there was a demand supply balance, now the supply is fallen. Okay, in demand pull we were talking about supply constant and demand increasing. Here what we are doing is demand is constant and supply has fallen. When supply has fallen, demand is still there, so the demand supply mismatch, again prices would increase. Then the second reason may be the increase in the cost of production. Okay, cost of production has increased. Supposingly demand remained the constant, the prices they increased because there is an increase in cost of production. Suppose power costs have increased, or labor costs have increased, or land revenue have increased, whatever. So this increase in cost of production would lead to increase in prices of goods and services also. Okay, so these are these are the factors which we call that if increase in prices or because of these two factors, shortfall in supply or the increase in the cost of production, we call it cost push inflation. Okay, here the demand is constant but supply has fallen, or the cost of production has increased. So this is also known as supply side inflation. Okay, because we are talking about the supply here, supply has fallen or cost of production has increased, supply side inflation. Earlier we talked about the demand side inflation because demand was increasing. Here supply is falling or cost of production is increasing. So this is cost push inflation. So let us now talk about some examples. Let us take some examples of factors that can lead to cost push inflation. Okay, so first is disruption in output and supply. Okay, demand is constant but supply, there is a disruption in output and supply. For example, if monsoons are poor, if we have a poor in some particular year, if we have poor monsoons or we have floods, etc., then it will lead to a fall in the food grain production. Okay, if monsoons are poor, disruption is there, right, because of the monsoon in the food production, there is a disruption because of poor monsoon or floods. Then what will happen is it will lead to the fall in the food grain production. When food grain would be scarce for a particular year, then it would lead to rise in prices because demand is already there but supply has fallen because of poor monsoon or whatever, floods, etc. So there is a disruption in supply can also be sometimes production may be okay, but there is disruption in supply because of hoarding. Okay, the traders, what they do sometimes is, supposedly if the price of some commodity, the agri commodity, is lesser during the harvest. Okay, so what they do is they do the hoarding. Okay, they keep those items in warehouses, and then they wait for they create scarcity in the market, and when there is scarcity the prices would increase obviously. So this is hoarding. So this can also lead to inflation. Then okay, I told there are two factors. Supply should of cost push inflation. Either the supply has fallen or the production cost of production has increased, or the prices. So high indirect taxes like GST, VAT, excise, etc., they can also lead to cost push inflation, because these taxes are added to the goods and prices of goods and services, and if these taxes are high, then the prices would also be high. Okay, prices of goods and commodities would obviously increase, and if prices would increase, it can lead to inflation. So high indirect taxes can also be a reason for inflation, cost push inflation. Then lack of proper infrastructure. We call these as infrastructural bottlenecks. If we don't have proper infrastructure like road, power, proper warehouses or railway lines, etc., then all these shortcomings in the infrastructure, they increase the per unit cost of production and distribution. It increases because of this. If there is a factory and it is not able to run 24 hours because of power cuts, so per unit cost of production would increase. Suppose we don't have proper roads, so what would happen is, if we want to take tomato from a village to a city and we don't have refrigerated trucks, or the roads are poor, or railway lines are not proper, so most of the tomatoes would get destroyed during the transition. Okay, so obviously the prices would increase, and if we had good infrastructure, then these things wouldn't have happened. So per unit cost of production and distribution, it also increases because of the lack of proper infrastructure. Fine. China is able to manufacture its goods at such a low prices because it has invested a lot in its infrastructure, and it employs the economy of scale because of that, and because of which it has such competitive prices. Okay. Then next factor can be increase in administered price. Administered prices are those prices which are regulated by the government. Suppose the MSP, minimum support price, that the government announces, it can also have an effect in increasing the inflation. Though high MSP is good for farmer, but what is MSP? MSP is government sets a minimum selling price. Okay, minimum selling price for some item, for some food grain item, suppose for rice or wheat or. Okay. So government has set a minimum price, so that food grain now would be sold at the price above that minimum support price. So if it is set too high, then though the farmer will be benefited, but the masses at large would have to pay a higher price for those food grains. So it can also lead to inflation. Then increases in wages and salaries. We talked about wages and salaries in demand pull factors also. Why? And why is it included here? Because increase in wages and salary, it will lead to it is a factor cost. It will obviously, when wages and salary would increase, the cost of production would also increase. When cost of production increase, the prices would also increase. Okay, prices would also increase. So these are certain examples of cost push factors. Now let us talk about what are the tools to control inflation. So let us first talk about the fiscal measures. I told you fiscal means measures taken by the government. Okay, when we talk about fiscal measures taken by the government, and whenever we talk about monetary measures, those would be the measures taken by the RBI or the central bank. So in fiscal measures, we can talk about reduction in indirect taxes. If very high inflation is there, then what can the government government can reduce the indirect taxes. When GST or VAT or excise is reduced, then obviously the prices of the final goods and services would also reduce. So people will get a relief from the increased prices. So reduction in indirect taxes. Then we have reduction in wasteful revenue expenditures. We talked about revenue expenditures. These are consumptive kind of expenditures and very ill targeted subsidies. Ill targeted subsidies. Okay, ill targeted subsidies means government is not targeting the subsidies in a way that it should reach the targeted beneficiary. Okay, so a lot of money gets wasted because even those people would get the subsidies who do not require it that much, but the government is spending a lot on those things. So the subsidies should be rationalized. Subsidies should be rationalized. Rationalized means it should be directed towards the people who require it the most, and the people who do not need it, the government should not target those people. Okay, so reduction in wasteful expenditures. Government can cut its revenue expenditures, so lesser money would go into the economy, and it can be helpful in the control of the inflation. Then as a long term measure, government can think about capital expenditure. Capital expenditure means those expenditures which are in the area of infrastructural development. Okay, if government builds better roads, better railway, government provides power, etc., then the per unit cost of production and distribution would reduce over a period of time. So as a long term measure to check inflation, capital expenditure is also can be done by the government. Okay, which the government is already doing also. So these are the fiscal measures. Then we have the monetary measures. I told you before also, monetary measures are undertaken by RBI, Reserve Bank of India, or the central bank. So to control the inflation. So what happens during the times of inflation? High inflation means high money supply in the economy, or we say that liquidity is very high in the economy. People have a lot of money in their hands. So what the RBI intends to do is, RBI intends to soak. Okay, it wants to soak the excess liquidity from the market, and in order to do that, what does RBI do? It has two instruments, repo rate and CRR, SLR. We'll talk about these things in money and banking in greater details, but for now let us understand that when RBI increases the repo rate, it leads to higher rates of interest on loans, and when loans would be costlier, people would take lesser loans. Lesser money will be out there in the economy because it increases the cost of capital, and such policy of the RBI is known as dear money policy. Dear means costlier. So capital has become costlier. So repo rate, RBI can increase the repo rate, or RBI can increase the cash reserve ratio, CRR, and statutory liquidity ratio, SLR. So when these things happen, we'll talk about CRR and SLR in greater detail in the money and banking chapter. But for now, you understand that when SLR and CRR are increased, banks are left with lesser money to lend. Okay, because they have to set aside a certain portion of the deposits that they have. So they have to set aside. They cannot give them as loans. So the banks are left with lesser money to lend. Hence, and this kind of policy by RBI, when they increase the CRR and SLR, is known as the tight money policy. So these are the measures which are undertaken by RBI to check the inflation rate. It increases the repo rate, it increases the CRR and SLR rates. Fine. Okay. Now let us talk about some administrative measures which the government can undertake. Administrative measures means government can we have certain acts like Essential Commodities Act 1955, which acts against the hoarding and black marketing. So essentially, so government, what it needs to do is it needs to enforce these acts in more stringent manner to act against the hoarding. Okay, act is still already there. When in situation of inflation is there, the government then it enforces these acts in much stringent manner, and the central government also urges the state governments to implement and keep a check on hoarding and black marketing and all. So these are certain administrative measures. Other administrative measures can be if price of certain commodities rises, like that of onion and pulses or edible oils, then the government can put a ban on their exports. Okay, government can put a ban on for some period of time. Government can put a ban on their exports. So by putting a ban, what we are doing is we are not allowing those commodities to go out of the country, because if they go out, then there will be further scarcity and further increase in prices. So government can indulge in can do certain such acts. So there can be a list of other. These are only indicative examples I have taken. The main idea here is to understand the concept, I hope, which you are understanding very well. So these are the administrative measures in order to control inflation. Okay friends, I hope you find the topic interesting and you understood it also. I will come up with another topic after some time. Till then, take good care of yourself and thank you.